4 years ago, I was invited to a party at someone's house in Berlin, and it became what's now called the 11 Forks dinner. It was Christy McDowell, and the reason it's called the 11 Forks is because 11 people showed up, and there were 11 forks after we found some on the floor. There was a hippie group there, a couple, who were working their way across the country, hand-to-mouthing it, calling farms, and coming and holding concerts, hear the sneer quotes in my voice, and on the farms, and in exchange, the farmers would feed them and give them food to continue on their merry way. So Christy had forgotten that these people were coming and had to hastily assemble an audience for this performance. I was fortunate enough to be in the audience. We went there and we had dinner, and then they began their concert. Now, 11 people were there. 2 of the people were in the band. If you're not great with math, or if you left your calculator home, that is 9 of us who are left watching the band play. We're on a stage slash porch slash deck that's about 10 feet square, and they're on one end and we are trapped on the other end. And the guy plays the guitar, very earnest, very hairy, very smelly, very guitar-y. And the girl plays the drums vaguely, and also the cymbals and triangle and wind chimes, also vaguely. And while he's singing very earnestly, head down, very Bruce Springsteen, she's doing her best Yoko Ono impression while she's hitting the chimes, going, wee, ah, ee. And I couldn't tell if she was making fun of him at first, and then I realized that that was their actual plan. And that's just another weekend on Delmarva. It's time for the Todcast.
You are listening to the Happy Hour Toddcast, presented by GoodCleanFunLife.com. Find us on iTunes by searching GCFL and subscribe today.
Sick in the lane. Hey, you're good.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Russo, no relation. And I had the pleasure of sharing that story just this weekend at what may be the final 11 Forks dinner. Christy McDowell, a friend of the show and friend of ours personally, had what maybe she has a job now. She works on the weekends, and so she's canceled the 11 Forks dinner for the foreseeable future.
That's a shame. That's such a
you never made it out
concept, but I never made it.
No, you never did. And for people who don't know what the idea behind the 11 Forks dinner is we all go. It's a potluck that's held out on a farm in the summertime, and it is just awesome. Everybody tries to out-hippie one another. Like, well, this is organic hummus. Yeah, well, this is organic couscous. Yeah, well, this is from grain made from organic hummus and organic couscous organically. You know, so it's it's very, 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 very high-end food. I had a wonderful time as I always do. But they had asked her to relate the story, and she said, well, we all got together, and she told essentially the same story I did, except she left out the part about the kooky hippie people, which is the only reason I went to the second 11 Forks dinner. I'm like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know what kind of weirdos she's going to dig up for this one, but I got to go. Right. She stopped digging up weirdos actually after the first one, although she did have a bongo player that came. And I have no problem with the bongos, and this story isn't about the bongo player, but it's worth noting that when you have, there are 2 ways to be at a party with an instrument. There's the way the bongo player guy does it, which is awesome, which is he sits and plays the bongos, and we go away from him and talk, or sit near him and play the bongos also, or do whatever we'd like, right? And then there's the way that we had it at the first 11 Forks dinner, where there are 9 people trapped listening to 2 people play with no really good excuse for leaving. Like if you're like, oh my God, is it ever gonna end? There's nowhere to go because there's 9 of you and you're all sitting right there.
and you have no you can't even like hide the eye roll or something like that if it's really off or the discomforting smell that you seem to
right. Yeah. For what it's worth, they were so earnest. I don't think eye rolls really registered with them. Not that I used any, because I've got to say I enjoyed myself. I I just enjoyed myself right from the beginning to the end because, I mean, their plan. I was jealous is a good word, because their plan was to drive to Detroit and to squat in an abandoned factory with like 100 other artists who were also driving to Detroit to do that.
Right.
And it would be lovely to be that young and that freaking stupid, but I'm neither. So all I can do is make fun of them. But they had a great time. I just recently saw that there's such a thing of a group called the White Stripes.
What? Just recently you're hearing
Well, I know
about
that there's a thing. I know. I always knew there were a thing. I didn't realize that there was an earnest guy on the guitar and his kooky sister on the drums until
Right.
like
Yeah.
So I think this was like a poor man's White Stripe.
I got you. They were going after something, but years ago you had no idea what they were going.
No,
after.
I'm really until really the last 3 weeks I didn't know that the White Stripes were one was just the person and the other one was some kooky broad on the drums. I mean, like I wonder if he advertised like, doing national tour looking for kooky broad to play the drums. I didn't know if that was what he was going for, but that's where he ended up.
That's well, and they're pretty well accomplished at this point. Actually, somebody was complaining because he was on a graphic on the internet of one of the like top 50 guitar players of all times or something like that. And you have these I heard this term rockists, which are like racist but about rock.
Uh-huh.
And if it's not Jimi Hendrix or the Beatles or Chuck Berry, it's no good. But I don't know.
Now, one of the things. Go ahead.
I said I like music that of all sorts.
The thing is that if you are a guitarist or a politician, it's all the same. Like you make out like there are differences, but these guys play together and they're fine.
Yeah.
And George Harrison doesn't stand in a room with Bob Dylan and say, "Well, I was a Beatle," and he's like, "Well, I was Bob Dylan." They just do that. They just do this stuff and leave us to do the arguing about it. Just like Bill Clinton goes out drinking with George W. Bush and chasing women together or whatever they do.
Right.
And they don't think about us or the things that they say when they're not out together at all.
Well, I believe that too about football players. They're like they're best buddies in the off season. They hang out. Their kids play at their really expensive, nice pools in the summertime, and then it's the fans that are so.
We're the ones who take it so seriously. We're suckers. We really are. I don't mind being a sucker. I mean, as a Jets fan, you get used to it. I was in on that early on.
Well, speaking of multiple types of music, we were up at up in, where did I tell you we were? Kent Narrows.
Kent Narrows, and I have a story about Kent Narrows too. So
we were at we saw 4 bands play. There was a classic rock, a young kid playing guitar, singer-songwriter type, and then there was a rock band and a country band that all played for the Rockin' for a Cure, which was a fundraiser for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, hosted by our good buddy J.J. Roth.
And what brought you out there?
Well, actually, it was JJ's doing. This is the second year they've been doing it. It's this woman that he met, and I guess he's done some other event type stuff up there. And there is they apparently have a very big bikini contest up there in the summer. But he was donating. Go figure, right?
You heard that, right? That was one for the old time listeners. Take your weight back.
He was donating his time to MC the event and help raise money, and he's always on the radio talking about and promoting. So it was a good thing. And then he asked if if we got put up and had a couple of drinks, if we would donate our services to do what we do and document it and take some pictures and video and be part of it. And we said, yeah, sure, that sounded like a great idea. And so that's what we did, and it was a super fun time. it's great donating your time to a thing like that, especially when it's an all-day event. And we just we just had a good time. In fact, if while I'm saying this, I can pop right over and say that there were pictures that already came up. I clicked the wrong one.
That's okay. But I spent some time in Kent Narrows because, actually, first by accident, but then on purpose. When I used to work out that way, when I was at the Star Devon Easton, we would go to Kent Narrows. But when I was doing research on the earliest bars in Maryland, I went out there because one of the very few bars that was legal in Maryland in the 1600s was at Kent Narrows, and I went out looking for that place.
1600s was the first one in on the Eastern Shore?
I did a really long research paper, and I could bore the hell out of anyone who made a mistake in tuning in and telling you. Briefly, there was a problem with too many people were opening bars, so they made a law closing all but 5. One of the 5 was in Kent Narrows. There was other ones down here. One, God rest in peace to Ed Hammond. One was the Burley Inn. With an Leigh, but we're not going to fight with him at this point.
Wow! In Kent Narrows, that's very far
because
from
the Eastern Shore to Annapolis.
Oh,
that was one of the problems. All right, now you lose. Now you got to hear my boring story. Okay, so what happened was all of these noblemen were coming from England.
Noblemen, really? Noblemen.
Noble persons coming from England, and they were really disgusted about the condition of the tap rooms and the tippling houses around in the colonies. So they complained to the right people, and so they raised the standards and they closed a lot of these tippling houses and only left the classy ones up. One in Kent Narrows.
Huh.
Wow. I have actually. It's like a 28,000 word paper. I'd be happy to send it to you if you'd like to read it.
No, I'm not going to read it because you know me. But I'd like for you to send it to me so that I have it. Should I ever need to call on that information?
Excellent. So let me see your pictures. How do we do?
We had a great time. Young kids playing. Like I said, this kid Gage Rhodes was up. It was a long day. So we had there's JJ and Gage.
I'm sorry, just so you know, I can't see that.
Oh, yep. Here, let me do this. One of the interesting things was a sponsor of this event.
Yeah.
You see? Are you seeing that?
I see that I'm about to see it, which is close enough. Go ahead. One of the event.
One of the sponsors of the events, Kent Narrows. There's some interesting people there because there's a whole lot of money, but then there's also these these boat people, and one of the sponsors was a bail bondsman. And the guy, you saw me there wearing a hat. It's a really nice flex fit hat and not branded terribly obnoxiously. But East Coast bail bonds had the swag of the day. So that was a pretty good thing. And there was the whole person who put this together. She's a survivor. Her name is Chris Shanahan, and she had her friends and cronies out there enjoying it. That's Chris right there on the left, next to JJ, and raised a good bit of money. And she's part of what is the Man or Woman of the Year scenario, where you have a bunch of people and they compete to raise money for the LLS.
Yes, it's very much like the Parrot Heads.
Yeah. So cool idea, and I think she's done really well. And actually, after taking those pictures and posting the video, we turned the video around in a day.
I saw that. That was brilliantly done.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. I think it was like, this is a donation. We're just gonna, just put it out there. But we got a lot of good content, so it was easy to put something together. But we got a contact from and I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but somebody else who wants us to come up to the gala. And it's funny because we know a couple other people who are already involved in raising money. Eva from the Salisbury Roller Girls is part of that fundraising effort.
Oh, right, yeah.
and who's been on the show, and so is Charles Keenan, who has been on the show as well. So I mean, we've been doing this a long time to get some fundraisers.
Right. If you have cancer, we'd love to have you on. That's for sure. Especially if you're bald. If you're bald and have cancer, please come on twice. They all lived, right? I can say that.
Yeah. They're all, in fact, they're all doing well.
Yeah, so, no, Charles was the guy. They did the show at the Ocean Pines Yacht Club or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Not the yacht club, the other one, the country club, the golf.
The golf club. Yep. Yeah. So that was our Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, getting all that stuff together. It was a great event. It was fun. And then after the event, we got some crabs and hung out and like I said, there's some interesting people on over there at the Ken Island area.
Well, as you mentioned, what's really interesting about that is you do have this really bizarre mixture of people who not only work for a living but have worked like hard, filthy jobs for a living for the last 6 or 8 generations, and people who are just, walking around with $1,000 bills falling out of their pocket and failing to notice. And
right.
it's but it's not in an aggro way, but it is kind of an odd.
Well, and I see it at the White Marlin Open. So you have that, but then you also have like the shorebilly types, like the fishermen and the guys that are not just like kind of unsavory to some extent. Like I like the honest longshoremen, but but like kind of you get the rich kids with their boats, and then you get the entitled shorebilly, and it's just it makes for an interesting combination.
I have to tell you now that the phrase entitled shorebilly will make it into something I write before I die. I swear to God. I don't know what it's going to be. If I forget to thank you for that phrase, thank you now, because that is an awesome turn of phrase. That's an awesome turn of phrase.
I'm not even sure what it means.
No, you know exactly what it means, right?
Yeah.
And if there's the right paragraph before that, the phrase entitled shorebilly is all you need to have.
Right.
I'm thinking go see our friends at OC Beer Company or whatever they're calling themselves nowadays. And actually, shorebillies is still a thing. Did they get a name yet? Did they close rather than have to figure out a name? Do you know any of those?
Yeah, no, they rebranded and they're now called Backshore Brewing Company.
Are they a sponsor of the show?
No. No.
Because I don't think changing the name is going to help at all, but we'll see.
Well, I've had lots of discussions with Brian. Of course, we're in deep with Brian, and we're working on a couple exciting projects that will be coming out in the near future.
Are you working on a book? Because I finished chapter 14 this morning.
We're on chapter 15 of our book.
Yeah.
But it's a one-page coloring or 1 page per chapter coloring book. What was I going to say about
Brian?
that? They are Backshore. They're playing for the boardwalk, and it's the difference between. So the analogy that I used was it's gotten to the point like saying a craft brewer is a teacher. Now there are Spanish teachers, there are math teachers, there's first grade teachers, there's 12th grade teachers.
There's Iron Man 3 teachers.
And
There's the Mandarin.
The Mandarin. So, I think it's funny because the conversations is, it's a global regional thing, or it's a regional, if not global thing, and you have to compare yourself with your contemporaries. And your contemporaries are not always in your proximity. So, I think I say if you look out and like, what are your favorite breweries? And there's like, small, like really craft-oriented breweries up in Maine who are doing the things, making the beer that they want to be making. I think that's wholly different than somebody who is looking to, cash in, not begrudging, a business plan, but there's business and then there's craft. And
as Vito Corleone said, it doesn't matter to me how a man makes his living.
Yeah.
But of course, he was Vito Corleone. We'll let that go. One of the theses that I laid out in Chapter 14, interestingly enough, is the difference between what it takes to earn a living as a bartender in Ocean City versus what it takes to earn a living as a bartender in, let's say, Berlin.
Right.
Where I don't have any real close ties to Ocean City. I don't know if I've made that clear or not. But in Ocean City, you can get away with a level of service that is abhorrent anyplace else, possibly outside of like Brooklyn.
Right.
What you do is, if you want to be a good, successful bartender in Ocean City, you scan the crowd. You say, okay, I'm going to ignore that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. You place your bets. Who's tipping tonight? Where's my money coming from? Those are the people who are going to get my attention. Other people could possibly get drinks, but if they don't, it's not really my problem, even though it's my job. Whereas if you're at a smaller place, especially a place like Burley, and this was a problem that I was writing about, which is why it's so fresh in my mind. Whereas at a place like Burley, if you're an Ocean City-minded bartender in Burley, like Tom, let's say, was, then you're going to have problems because you don't get to decide the service based upon the tip, because you're not turning over 10,000 people over the course of a week. You're turning over 300.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
You got to be the same to all 300 of those people, and in Ocean City, as kindly as I can put it, there's no point in taking your business elsewhere because the service is probably going to be crappy there too. Right. Whereas in Berlin, you're competing. Like if someone leaves, they could not come back because, at the risk of sounding too brown nosy, you can't go to too many places and find hideous service in Berlin. Sometimes everybody has a bad night, right? Sometimes you get better service, sometimes you get worse service. But if you're going to provide bad service with some sort of regularity, it's not going to fly in Berlin. In Ocean City, it'll fly forever. I mean, Christ, if service mattered, Secrets would have been closed a decade ago.
Yeah. Well, and
you don't have to comment on that. I'm sorry.
We have some good friends that have made a solid living at Secrets, serving. Serving 100 Natural Light cans to fill up one of the big food trays to carry out into the swill water out in the bay. People. I mean,
it's no different to me how a man earns his living.
That's Vinny Corleone. Yes. So it's the difference between there's definitely something there. And it's funny. So as we're starting a business,
right.
One of the things that we have done is try to align ourselves with people who are like-minded as we are, and then to provide a level of service that is, quick turnaround, quality, authenticity. Like these are the things that we're always trying to get at.
It's gonna matter.
Yeah, and and for the most part, I feel like the slippery slope for what we're doing in the media, that I'm always very or with media, is the advertorial type stuff, and it's pretty close, but I stand behind the people and all the brands that we represent, and they're not for everybody, but I think we're pretty true to all of that.
Well, as I mentioned before the show, I'll mention now, I actually now professionally write advertorial, and I think that if you can come away with some dignity, that's the main thing. I was talking about with my new boss, one of her clients who I didn't know was her client until halfway through the conversation. Our friends, possibly our friends, certainly my friends, but probably your friends over at the Monkey's Trunk. You know those guys?
I don't know them, but yeah,
I
but
think John and Ron. I remember John. I think the quiet one is Ron. There's John who's like, wah! And there's Ron who's not John. And what we were talking about, I was saying, you know, I feel like I'm fit to write advertorial because of people like the Monkey's Trunk. When I did a story on them. I mean, at this point, it's got to be 4 or 5 years ago. And when I spoke with him, he was in an absolute panic. He's like, "What do you mean I don't get to see it before it goes to print?" I'm like, "No, we're going to pretend this is news, and you don't get to see it. I write it, I put it in the paper. If I say this dude's a moron, it's going to go in the paper, and then we could have that fight later." I actually didn't say that to him, but that's what I say to other people.
Right.
I said, "But trust me, you're going to like it." And so I ran the story. I was at an event at Baked Desserts, and he walked by, and he saw me in there, and he stopped, and he came after me, and I was pretty sure he was going to hurt me. I was all I could think about was, what did I get wrong? What did he hate about the story? And he came up to me, and he put his arm on my shoulder, and he shook my hand. He's like, "That was a great story. I can't believe I didn't try. I'm so sorry that I was so afraid. You did a good job, just like you said you'd do. We came off great, and now it's real because I didn't get to change it, blah, 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 blah." So I'm telling this to my boss, or my new potential boss, who does make me submit it to the client for changes, and that's what I was saying. I'm like, they're going to like it because you can be honest and also nice. I know nothing about me suggests that I'm honest and also nice, but I'm capable.
Yeah, you have it within you. But I mean, that's what
$200 a story. I am capable.
That's what the whole idea of critique is. I mean, you know, I haven't seen many bands that I don't like and I don't appreciate. Actually, I have a story. You know, for that there were some young kids. The new Barn 34 opened up in Ocean City, and they had an opening party. We went to it, and this young band was playing, the Hooplas, and they are, you know, they're just young, and I was just expecting them to be another Sublime tribute band out of Stephen Decatur, and you know, I mean, that's great, but no, it's not.
I don't even know what that is. When you said Sublime, I heard, what's the band where the lead is the tenor saxophone?
The lead,
it's Metamorphosis or something. Whatever you're about to say, that one. Methadone. Methadone?
No.
Not methane. That's rude. They're a group. There's 3 guys. One of them sings and plays the tenor saxophone. And it's like heroin, but not.
I have no idea.
Not methadone?
No.
Right,
it might be.
Finish your story. It's not way. There's no way it's methadone.
All right. So they basically they sound. I was expecting them to sound one way. I was expecting them to not be as polished as they were, and I got to the point where, you know, not that I consider myself an authority on anything, but I was looking for something to be wrong, and I kind of caught myself, you know, looking for something to be wrong, and I'm like, you know what? These guys are good. I enjoyed it. The vibe was right for the crowd that was there. And it was good. Even Saturday, this one of the bands was a country-ish band, and like you said, I mean, you know, music is music, and if it's in the right environment and it hits you right, then that's what happens. And I think it's the same way with businesses and relationships. But that's why, you know, that's the advertorial slippery slope. When you're just regurgitating what somebody else wants to put out there,
exactly.
You lose the authenticity. So
now, because when I was at the Bayside Gazette, it's not a secret. I couldn't write a bad business story. I couldn't go in, like, one of the reasons, like, restaurant people are always like, "Hey, try my food." I'm like, if I try your food, this is going to go poorly for everyone. Let me just say your food is awesome, and we'll be friends, and I'll keep my job, and you will give me a hard time.
Right.
But what you have to do, and I know that you're always kind of looking for new things to read. I don't know if you're familiar with Chuck Klosterman, but he made his bones talking about why things you think are crappy are awesome. Yeah. He did the definitive essay on why Billy Joel is brilliant and no one will ever give him any respect.
Huh.
So read a lot of him, and that's the idea. The idea is, okay, given that I'm going to write this story, and given that it's going to be positive, what is cool about this place anyway?
Right.
What is cool about this event anyway?
Right.
You know, whether you're going to, no judgment at all, but if you're going to the lymphoma thing, if you're going to, you go to Mackey's and you're going to do something on one of the theme parties, you know, there is the party line, as you were talking about, and there is, all right, well, what's really, really cool about theme parties? Because there is something cool about theme parties, and if you're willing to make the effort to talk about why theme parties are cool, the rest of it's going to come off.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of making that effort. The effort's on you to do things that are positive, and even when they're advertorial, still honest. And I think, I guess I'm going to find out, but I think I can be honest and advertorial at least 62%.
And I think there's a certain segment of the population that appreciates that, and gets that. And I think you should always go after the highest common denominator. You know, the people who are looking for the positive stories, not the negative stories. The people who understand that a critique or making a comment is one way or the other. That there is such a thing as sarcasm. There is such a thing as tongue in cheek. But
and psych. I don't know. I don't want to catch you out, but sarcasm and irony are different only because if you're being ironic, you're not being mean. If you're being sarcastic, you are.
Oh, you've schooled me on this before.
I know. I figured I better catch you up. Sorry.
And I need to I need to correct that, because that is exactly what is and this is the same question I asked last time. What does sardonic mean? Is that just a synonym for
sardonic is a really interesting way of saying ironic. It's somewhere between. Okay, so if I'm like, nice hair, Todd, then that is sarcastic. If I'm like, you know what? Given the way that your head looks, it's really interesting what you did with your hair. Huh? That's ironic. And if I'm like, yeah, you did the best you could, that's sardonic. I don't know why I picked on your hair, but it's because your head is in my face, and I know that you must be a little bit nervous about the beard because you're still cultivating it. So
I am.
Whereas you're comfortable with your hair.
I can't stop touching it.
You know what? If you don't have clippers, what I would recommend is invest in clippers.
I do have clippers.
Yeah, I would find a setting you like. I would do it on Monday because that way any damage can be undone by the weekend. But I would find a long setting you like and a mid setting you like. Run the long setting across your whole face. Run whatever you want here on your chin. Set that one first.
Right.
Run that across your face, and then go down a notch and don't go as far. And I think that you'll be happy because I see what you want to get a little bit more bushy, but not much bushier than you are. And I can see that you're worried because this is a thing that happened to me. One of the reasons I got rid of my little beard was because the left side just got longer than the right side, and I couldn't do it while I was naked in the steam room.
which is where you do your grooming.
Right, which is where I do all my grooming, to the horror of all my fellow steam room people. So it's easier just to shave my whole face now.
Oh, man.
All right, well, if this was a year ago, I would start off with it as the weekend on Delmarva, but it is not, so I will not. But we should at least make a nod to the calendar and talk about camo fashions another day. What do we got coming up this week?
Well, it's Memorial Day weekend. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. You're looking at the start of the season, and we're going to be up at the Starboard for work 2 days. You have Kristen in the Noise on one of those days, and just Doug Segree the other day. And then there's also our friends from Pasadena are going to be playing the Caribbean Pool Bar on Friday. That will be our fun event. That's what we'll go out for fun. And then we're going to be we're jumping right into Mackey's theme parties are starting next week. So that will be that will be well underway. So, It's still like coming home from the events that we had this weekend and in the beginning of the week, and there's a tasting that we're going to this evening, and it's just it's go, but it's fun. So
very, very, very looking forward to the Mackey's theme parties because they're awesome. And if you don't write the essay about why theme parties are awesome, I might just have to go ahead and do it.
I definitely have it in me because I definitely have been as a 40-year-old who attends. I still have the I definitely defend that on a regular basis as being one of the best parties in town. And you could be any age and enjoy it. So.
And I think it's part of that. I think that without being too Mackey's pluggy, because I'll probably live and die and never buy a beer at Mackey's, but only because they're only open in the summertime, and that's the only time I don't go to Ocean City. Without being too pluggy, the thing about it is it's in a way it's like everyone having to do karaoke. You just have to set aside. You either have to go for it or not go for it, but you have to participate. And you have to laugh at yourself. And any time that you can get a room full of 3,000 people to laugh at themselves and to just shake off a little bit of their pretense, that's good. That's good. It's good for the soul, even if it's not good for my personal eyes.
Right. Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty more on that. I do need to write that. I need to put that essay together for sure.
I will help you. Don't publish it without sending it to me because I will totally. I will help you. I'll move you 2 steps closer to the Pulitzer with just a little bit of prodding and focusing.
Sounds
but
good.
that's what we're gonna do for this week because I'm not out of things to say, but I'm getting to the point where if I start talking, I might not ever stop, and then we'll run out of internet. So that's all I got. How about you?
That's all I got. I got nothing.
Oh, there you go. Well, may Todd give you the sense to live in a small town.
We'll see you next week at Happy Hour.
For more, go to goodcleanfunlife.com for podcasts, event calendars, articles, and more. Call or text us at 703-828-GCFL.